Welcome to Tree Doctors. Thank you for joining us. On today's program, we're going to take a look at putting rods in trees to save those trees and talk to some residents about their trees. But first, let's catch up with Ed Dickey and let him tell you a little bit about what he does to save your trees.
You know, great strides have been made in the chemical community as the technology come available now where you don't need to clumber some capsules to tree, and we can put actually 9 or 10 different products at one time in a tree. You can see it boiling out from around the base of that as I'm injecting this into the soil ball. Amino acids, different miticides, insecticides. We can choose what we want to treat for, and we get a long residual from this. So you get a year's worth of good or longer out of our injection when we do a tree. An actual molt of chemicals put around your tree, and it's all moisture activated. So as the weather hits it or the rain, it supercharges it again and carries through the tree. So to get rid of your unwanted insects or to revive a tree to put new life in it, you know, that's what we do. We put the zap back in the sap. We give new life to old trees. That's what we do. We're the Tree Doctors. Dickey Tree Service in your yellow pages under trees.
Let's get some tips on how to take care of our trees from the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, right now on Tree Doctors.
Here we have a yellow poplar growing near this driveway, and they've let this young dogwood grow right against the root system. It took a few years to get like that. Eventually the boars took the dogwood out, but that was just a total waste of space letting that happen to start with. If they'd have clipped that off a few years ago, they wouldn't have a dead tree now and a problem tree. Right here underneath me is a nice little poplar coming up here, but it's coming off of a root from this yellow poplar. Tulip poplar is what a lot of people call this. This is not going to make a viable tree. It's just going to come up and be off of that root. It's best to go and get rid of that and be done with it and not have that problem. Got a little red bud coming up right here by the driveway. Now that could be after a rain pulled up and transplanted somewhere. But you don't need to have another tree trying to coexist right underneath the umbrella of an existing tree. You're just asking for a lot of extra work and trouble. You can do it if you're willing to take on the extra task of taking care of it. But as a general rule, let your own tree stand by itself and let the others stand by themselves. You'll be glad you did. I'm here in Jonesboro with Barry Posey, and you called me in a few years ago, Barry. Tell me what was going on with your trees.
Well, the first time I had association to call you was I got a tree struck by lightning, which was pretty devastating, and I asked you if it was going to live or not, and you told me, and no, it wasn't. And so we have a stump out here, and that's how it all got started when I got associated with you and calling you in to maybe treat some of the rest of my trees, because at that time I became concerned with my trees here, because I've got a lot of old trees in this downtown on Main Street, and so I wanted to protect them. That's kind of the last thing that I thought about when I moved in this house was my trees. But now I'm thinking more and more about them because I don't want to lose any more.
Right, you've done wonders with this yard. Barry has a beautiful old home that he's redid here on Main Street in Jonesboro, and when he called me in, this lightning had been so severe hit on this oak that I recommended he take it down and not waste too much time because it would become a hazard. What is your occupation, Barry?
I have a hair salon. I've been in the business about a long time, maybe 40 years, I guess, into the hair business, and have a salon on Matthews Street over here, and I have about 6 girls that work for me, so that's what I do.
Right, you're a hairstylist then, yeah. Right. Now, we treated all your other trees after we did that here. That's been a year or better ago. Did you notice a big difference in your trees?
Yes, I did. After this, I got concerned about them, so we fertilized this other oak that was by it, hoping that it'll branch out where it was sheltered. We came back and I had some bagworms in several of them, and then I think that's a poplar tree over here that it had some scales on the thing, and it's just dripping sap, and so I really wanted to protect these because I like having trees out in front from Main Street here to kind of buffers everything. So.
Right, and I give Barry the whole yard price, which is much cheaper than an individual tree price, and so we've been taking care of them a while, and the trees and your bushes kind of speak for themselves, don't they, Barry?
Yes, a few of them you gave me recommendations what to do on some of them, but the larger trees I can't reach those with just your normal spray. So when you've got some cedar trees out here and a big poplar tree, sure you want to get it all protected, and I don't want to lose them. And
oh, I don't blame you. Every one of them is kind of, you've got a nice magnolia around there, and it just sets the place off, doesn't it?
Right. I just I love that magnolia tree. It goes all the way down to the ground, and it really buffers the noise and stuff down here from Main Street, and two, that you don't see right into my house.
Right, a privacy angle.
Privacy, yeah, and I've been trying to do a lot of evergreens around here to keep things green around my property in the back and stuff like that to grow up, and so I'm starting to plant more trees right now.
Right, which is not a bad idea at all.
Right. And I've lost several trees after I moved here. I started noticing a lot of trees. I lost some box elders, some old trees, and I just thought that was just normal things that happen to trees, and I'd never thought about fertilizing them and doing things. And when you're doing an old house, the first thing you do is you put your money in your house.
Right.
Then you kind of get some grass growing, and now it's like the trees. Now I'd rather have more trees than grass.
That's right. And people forget the grass kind of competes against the trees, so they need that little extra protection too.
Yes, they do. And I worried about maybe here cutting this driveway that I did. I cut this in here, and if it was getting too close to the trees, I worried about things like that. But so far everything's worked out. It's just, like I say, when lightning hits a tree, I wish I'd have probably put a lightning rod in it.
Right, yeah, it's always too late after it happens.
I know it, and it is something to really think about. So
it really is, and it surprises me, and it might be a thought that you can think about on your big home here. That they recommend those for these two-story structures, and you go up north, every place has got it on them. Down here we don't. And
yeah, I know. I probably will do that someday.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you.
Just kind of trying to, get all the disease off the trees. Taking care of the bagworms, and I think I had some bark beetles is what we found on my Leland cypress that I planted.
Yeah, the Leland cypress, they were
planted a few years
ago. Bad problem with those this year. Well, I appreciate you, Barry, talking about your trees, and while we're discussing this, John's going to show a lot of the shots, and we'll visit back one of these days and see if you're still happy with your tree.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Here we have a young dogwood that's, you can tell by the base, it's somebody got a little weed eater happy in the past years, but we had a recent windstorm and a rain, and it blew this tree over. It was actually laying down in the yard, and I propped it up there so you could see that. Not knowing that, you'd think it's a viable tree, but it's just a matter of me taking this loose, and there goes your tree heading down. And it won't take but a few minutes to get back over where it was when I propped it back up. Now this tree, it has about 3 things wrong with it. It's all the roots on this one side are severed. It's not going to make a viable tree. If you tried to stand it back up with a T-post and tie it off, you would lose a couple of years trying to get the roots established again. And it being a dogwood and plagued with problems anyway, very delicate tree, be better off to just get another one. Sometimes you have to do that. You hate to admit it, but you have to do that. Where if this tree had been staked originally, it would never have been blew over. But also, if it had been properly taken care of originally, it wouldn't have had all these weed eater whip marks at the base. So it takes a while for a tree to get into real bad shape. And if it gets in real bad shape, you better start over sometimes. I'm here in Jonesboro, right off of Wood Springs Road, and here with me is Maud Boyd. And Miss Boyd, why don't you tell our viewers what was going on? You just recently purchased this property, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I've always loved this place. I like the trees, and this was always really a house that I've always looked at but couldn't afford. So here lately my daughter and myself decided to purchase this, and she's getting married next year and going to live with me, so we needed a larger home.
Yes, ma'am, and we're going to be showing a little bit of the yard because the reason I wanted to do this, Miss Boyd had your landscape guy. Who was he now?
Jimmy Davison. I called him to come in to do the landscape, clear out the dead trees, and mulch all that needs to be, and just clean it all up.
Yes, ma'am, and Mr. Davison called me, and I walked over the property with him about preserving these trees and treating them, and that's what we're in the process of doing here today. But I wanted to film where Mrs. Boyd's going to have a nice fountain area here behind us, and take out some of this unwanted stuff too, aren't you, Miss Boyd?
That's right. Clean it all up.
Yes, ma'am, and we're going to be moving around here in a moment, and see a little girl coming in the picture here. Is that kin to you?
That's my granddaughter.
I thought it was. But we'll move around and get some other shots of that way the viewers can see a before and after of how a little bit of person puts their own touch in a yard. Makes a difference, doesn't it?
It makes a big difference, and to save the trees, we used to couldn't do that, and now we can, so we have you. We have a tree doctor, so that helps.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Boyd, earlier you had spoke about your daughter, and this is your Brooke, aren't you?
Yes.
I noticed you have a ASU sticker on there.
Yes, sir. We had a football game last night.
Okay, and you're part of the cheerleading part?
The A team. We're the dance team.
Oh, okay. Well, did you win?
Yes, we did. By one field goal with 4 seconds left in the game.
Oh, that's the kind of game you like to see. Miss Boyd, we're back here, and your granddaughter, that's Kayla?
Kaylee.
Kaylee. A lot of these trees back here, you're going to selectively cut out some you don't want. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, there'll be several. Not very many, but there will be several that we cut out.
Yes, ma'am. And we're treating all the rest, and we'll come back here in a future segment, and we'll show exactly what she's done here and talk to them again and see just how putting your personal stamp on a yard can make a difference, because it's a beautiful yard to start with, Miss Boyd. Now you got something to work with anyway.
Yes, I do.
And and you're getting married, and you're going to be living here too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we want to visit back with you when it all gets done, after you get these treated and your landscape man gets the yard in shape, and hopefully y'all can take a minute and talk again.
Thank you.
We'd love to.
will.
You know, a lot of people wonder about how to keep the vegetation away from the big old large trees they care about, and there's several ways to do it, and I've covered a lot of them on the show, but these people here are using a little different than most people. It's a manure type compost, but it's also got fertilizer mixed in. This is a Cosmo-coated fertilizer. That's a slow release when they coat it like that Cosmo-coat, and so they're feeding these hostas and stuff they got going on, and this monkey grass around here also, as well as giving the tree a little bit of a nutrient. And while I'm on the subject of keeping your vegetation down, I mentioned a few times on the program about putting the dirt over the roots where they protrude out around the edge of it. And a lot of people have taken that wrong and started using, instead of, I recommend topsoil, they use potting soil. Now that's the wrong stuff to use. That'd be just like right here. This makes roots grow. Now you don't want to put potting soil all over a root that you got running out away from the tree, because you're going to create other roots growing. It's so rich in nutrient. Just regular old, plain old cheap topsoil to go over that root, and that way you're not hitting it with a lawnmower. Here's a little different story. They want this rich, enriched soil to grow these plants around this tree and hold down the vegetation, because evidently they keep them hand pulled. Some people still do that. No big deal about that. So that's what's going on around this big old oak tree. I'm here on the Boyd property with Jimmy Davison and Davison Associates. And Jimmy, you've got a landscaping company, and why don't you tell the viewers why you called me in on this job?
Well, we had some problem with bollworms and, some insects and stuff like that right there. And just things that I believe that need your attention. This tree that we have that, that split, and just other reasons, and just expertise on it, I guess is what you can say. And
Right. Well, I was lucky enough. I caught Miss Boyd earlier, and we did kind of a shot of some of this because you're going to do some drastic landscaping in this yard, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I am. It's there's going to be a lot of cleanup and some trees removed, what have you, and trimming and things like that right there, and some rock work. Or there's going to be another pond put in. Uh, just various things out here. It's going to change a lot.
Right. I imagine the fountain area is going. We took a shot of that before. That's going to change quite a bit, and we'll move around to the deck part in the back here in a few minutes, and we'll talk a little bit about there. There's a lot of trees in this yard, aren't there?
There's a lot of trees in this yard. There's a lot of leaves, a lot of dead stuff that has really been hurting the place. I would say a lot of.
Well, I tell people too much of any one thing can be damaging, and in this case here, they had let the leaves pile up to the point that they were ant beds underneath some of them, wasn't they?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we found four big ant beds that I've found so far, and we're halfway across the cleaning up. So.
And we're not talking little ant beds. We're talking the millions to the billions. Isn't that right?
Yes, there's probably 1 million eggs out there alone that we found.
And what Miss Boyd's having me do is treat all the existing hardwoods trees here, and then we're going to, by soil injection, and then we're going to spray the rest of the property to take care of those trees and any other problems they got in the yard. Jimmy and I moved around back of the house here, or the front I should say, but where the main trees are, and you started your cleanup a little bit here. What all have you done here so far, Jimmy?
Well, we removed roughly 5 loads of leaves and just dead limbs, undergrowth, and things like that right there. One of our numerous ant beds are right here, kind of behind you. We have a big ant bed there that we found, and we've run into some ground hornets. Just some unwanted trees that we need to get rid of.
Right, yeah, and you'll be taking those out too. The camera will show a few of those in the background, but you say 5 big loads already, and this is just a small portion of the yard, isn't it?
This is just getting started of it right here.
Jimmy, this is one of the projects that's going to have to be handled here in this backyard right here. Tell our viewers what's happening here.
Well, we got rot on all of your cross ties just through the year, water, not termites, but like ants and stuff like that right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all this out, save all the shrubs and what have you, and we're going to put rock. We're going to slope this down and put rock on it.
Well, you won't have to worry about that rock rotting in the future, will you?
No, it won't. We're gonna put the paper under it so that we won't have no growth come up through it, and it'll look good for years to come.
And it actually fits the surroundings better because this is a stone house anyway. So why not?
It's just gonna blend in. It's gonna make it look real good, I think.
Well, when we come back later on to show after you get that done, I think the viewers will see that too. And walk this way just a little, if you will. Jimmy, back behind me. Now, this is part of the yard that you haven't done too much yet, have you?
No, we haven't been back here yet. We're going to start on it and continue around. And as you can see, what it kind of looks like with just everything in there, it's years added up is what it is.
Right, Jimmy and Miss Boyd's having me treat all of these, and I'm having them stay out of this weekend, and then he can go back to working in it and digging in it and everything Monday. Jimmy, when do you anticipate that you'll get all this done in the backyard and front yard put together and pretty well finished?
Well, weather permitting, we're hoping a couple months, 2.5 months, something like that. Hopefully, we can wrap this up and make it real pretty for them.
Right, because this is a super-sized yard, and if you compared it, it would be like 3 or 4 yards, wouldn't it?
It's definitely big. It's amazing what it's going to look like when we're done.
Jimmy, have you took into consideration on the erosion problem that you're going to get once you mulch and clean this up?
Yeah, we're hoping that some of the mulch staying will help a little bit on the erosion, and we're going to place rock in various places out here, kind of make little filters, so that the water won't wash everything out in the street and out on the grass, and won't leave big gullies in here and stuff like that. So.
Right, yeah, slow the movement of the water, and that way you can kind of monitor it after a rain, see if you need to modify that. Is that right?
Yeah. We'll watch it as the rain comes on and do what we have to do to slow it down and stop any erosion.
Right, because up to now, the trees have caught all of that, and they're taking out selective trees and some dead trees, and so this is not going to have the catch basin effect that it had before, so you're just going to have to monitor that, aren't you?
Yeah, when you take all the leaves that's gathered here over the years, you know, you're going to get some fast moving water when you get a big rain. So we're going to hope to stop that.
Right.
Control it.
Well, good deal, and I'm glad to see you took that into consideration too, because it's like when you do the wall up there, those rocks are going to kick it down a little farther too, aren't it?
Yeah, the water's going to be coming off a little harder, and of course the rock out here will accent the landscape too, and as well as stopping the water.
Right, it'll serve dual purposes. All right, well, good deal, thank you. What I just did here was I got 2 3/4-inch rods right here in this part that busted here, that a twisting wind causes this to break, and it broke down pretty far here, but this one is going to the right and this one's going back to the left, kind of making a small cross here. So one rod wouldn't help this, because if you had another twisting wind, it would, needless to say, bust it unopened. Now this is a 1-inch rod. This took a different drill bit and different rod because it's a bigger piece, needless to say. But one rod held it because you're just pulling it straight in together. You can't get a twisting wind down there that low. What's kind of unique about this is in the tree journal a couple of months ago, I had read that they had found that when a tree gets wounded, the cambium growback, the replacement bark, or what they call as response wood is actually the correct name, is actually 40% stronger than the existing cambium that was dislocated during the injury. And during the drilling of that, I encountered that you could actually tell when you was going through this place that was where it was busted and where it wasn't, and it was quite difficult, even with my tools and my razor sharp drill bits. So that's the tree trying to save itself, not realizing that a little tree doctrine will help it. But trees are very residual. They respond, and they don't heal like you and I. They compartmentalize, but where they compartmentalize, it's generally stronger than what they were. But we fixed this maple up for years to come, and maybe you got a tree and you need fixed up. You can see it's not that much problem. While I was here in Rector Park, we discovered some borer damage to some of these big old trees, and Leland Blackshear's here with me. And, a little different from the time I treated them before, isn't it, Leland?
It is, Ed. I remember the last time you used those inserts around the base of the tree, and this time I noticed a different type of application. Exactly what is this?
Okay, before it was the capsules, and there was just one chemical going in the tree that took care of the insects that's working on it. Yeah. Now we can add a multitude. In this case here, there are 9 different chemicals going in here. In addition to the systemic insecticide, there's a systemic miticide. There's amino acids. There's iron, zinc, manganese, copper. Another product called Super Strive. They use that out in Disney World quite a bit, keep them trees that's restricted by concrete growing. Another product that you're probably familiar with that I developed called NutriTreat. You remember NutriTreat?
Yeah, boy, it did wonders for my trees at home. Yeah. Gosh, yeah, I love NutriTreat.
Yes, sir. And you used that how many years?
Oh, I don't know. Many, many, many. Yeah. And my trees have always looked pretty.
Right. And another product in it called Plant Power. And what this does, this is a pressurized needle. I stick it in the ground, and I think the camera will show how it's flooding that ground that's coming out behind me. And it'll come out, and I do a ring all the way around the tree, and it creates a moat of chemicals, and it's water activated. That's how we get our year's worth of residual. If you'll remember, about years ago, and I treated these trees, there's no guarantee whatsoever. Remember that?
I do remember. What did you treat them 5 years ago? The big trees.
Right.
And so far this year, you've treated small trees, and now we're going for the large trees, the big ones.
Right. Yeah. Leland and them talked with the board and the mayor and all. And they decided just to have me treat all these big trees again. It's been 5 years since they done anything, and we found a little bit of a borer problem. And that's what I'm going to be doing in the next day or two for the...
Well, I think a good point, Ed, not to interrupt you, but I think a good point that fellow Commissioner Don Pickler made was that you have a so-called island of trees treated among many trees, and I think you'd be miles ahead, he said it, to treat them all to eliminate any spread back into the ones that you treated before. in a few years.
That's exactly right. Earlier, the park had me treat some younger trees that had moved in here because they're replacing the older ones. But we don't need to forget our older trees.
No.
That's what Leland and them stay on top of. They noticed a little problem with the old ones. They said, take care of my old ones too. Am I right?
That's exactly right, because it takes a long time for a tree to be 100 years old.
Yeah, at least 100 years.
and we have, I mean, to get this big.
Oh, you betcha.
And we have a reforestation project going, which you have been aware of for some time, and it's expensive, and if you don't protect your investment, and it's not only money, but for the future of this park. On Labor Day weekend, everybody comes from everywhere who ever lived here, and it's a homecoming, and class reunions and what have you, and we always want this place to look top-notch, and this helps.
Right.
We couldn't have the park without the trees.
That's exactly right. And a lot of people forget, they think it's only a monetary thing, money, but there's a lot of labor goes, and labor of love goes into these trees, y'all's park board members.
It does. You have to stay on top of it or you lose it.
That's right. They water, and they're constantly doing something out here. I pass here all the time in my travels. But we're going to get these big ones back in shape again. I want to talk to you again about the stumps in the yard. There's a lot of stumps scattered around the country in people's yards, and they've been mowing around them and tearing up their mowers. If you'll just dig the dirt away from the edge of it about 3 or 4 inches, go about 3 or 4 inches deep also, pull it back away and make a levee, dump you some charcoal on there and light it. It'll burn down in the ground as deep as you have dug around it. And if you got a couple of them, you can use what coals that you don't use on this one, use on the other one. And if you really want to make use of your time and your effort and the charcoal, bring you some weenies or marshmallows out here and marshmallow roast and weenie roast them. That get rid of that stump, you'll be glad you did. You know, some trees have insect problems, some just have construction damage. Well, we can handle them both generally at the same time. I'm using a soil injection here, building a mold of chemicals all around the root ball. It gets translocated into the crown of the tree. It has a very long residual. Stays working for a year or better, killing insects as well as growing new feeder roots and increasing the canopy of the tree. 9 different chemicals is going in this at once. So there's so much we can do that we used to couldn't do, and it's, in most cases, it's cheaper than it used to be. And just name me just any one thing that's come down in price. Well, taking care of your trees have come down in price. Give us a call. You'll be surprised. We're the Tree Doctor, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees.
Well, that's all the time we have for Tree Doctors today. Remember, if you need to get in touch with Ed Dickey, it's simple. You can call the number below or go to dickeytree.com. You can catch Doctors every Saturday and Sunday morning at 6 o'clock right here on KAIT. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Tree Doctors.